I mean, the China quake was horrid, and many thousands of people died. But we were actually able to give warning 36 hours in advance of the quake because we didn't know where it would happen. We just knew it was coming. So we just basically told everybody about 36 hours beforehand, y'all better go and lock down anything that can rattle off because we're just going to get a big shaker. We just didn't know where it was. So every time we have one of these and we get a hit on it, we see how the results work out, what language actually expresses, what manifestations are, we go back and retune. So, for instance, now we think that there's going to be a real good possibility of a major earthquake, probably twin earthquakes, because we're getting language to the effect of twinning relative to earthquakes on December 10th, 11th, and 12th. Doesn't mean we're going to have an earthquake each day, but it means in that period of time, and it may be the 9th, and it might be as far as the 13th, because usually if we're wrong, we're off by a day or so either way. But there's some indications that there's going to be an earthquake in the boundary of 32 degrees to 36 degrees latitude north. Now, that's a huge section of the planet and includes all these geophysically active areas like Pakistan, Iran, California, and so on. So there's some potential for an earthquake in that band, and then coincidentally, there's also an indication that an echo, if you will, or an antipodal earthquake would occur, and thus, if, for instance, we have an earthquake on the 10th in Iran, it would not surprise me at all to find that we have an earthquake on the 12th up here off Vancouver Island, because that would be almost antipodal from where we think it might occur. If, for instance, we have a big earthquake in the 36 degrees latitude south, and we get some volcanic action, then the antipode might be in that case, say 36 degrees south would be South America, and say, Peru, Chile, in that area, and we had a volcano attached to it, then the antipode for that might also still be in the American hemisphere, and again, might show up off the coast of the Pacific Northwest. And we have some small indications that tsunami issues will be involved. Not enough for everybody to run to the hills or anything, but certainly enough to cause damage in ports and low-lying structures.
Fascinating. Oh, that's a big, wow.
Yeah, so if you live in these areas, hey, go and, lock stuff down. Now, my thing is, a lot of people say, oh, you can't talk about this, earthquakes, can't do anything about them, and so on. Well, but the fact of the matter is that rarely does the earth itself kill somebody in an earthquake. It hardly ever opens up and eats anybody, or it hardly ever drops a mountain on you. Right. There are occasions, like the Pakistan earthquake that we forecast, that was really the case. Mountains slid down, and you couldn't have done anything about it if you tried. Now, in our neck of the woods, though, what kills people is not, or the earthquakes, it's the bad engineering. And that you can do something about. You can remove the heavy stuff that's over your bed in case the earthquake happens at night and that stuff would fall on you. Or you can lash it to the wall, this kind of thing, right? So you can take precautions against this, and it's good to know that there's potentially going to be a big earthquake, then you're not going to lose it. You'll stand there and watch all the trees flap their arms up and down for a few seconds, and then you go and help pick stuff up.
Well, yes, I just really don't comprehend that. I don't want to hear about these possibilities because, so what's the alternative?
Well,
you do something about it, or you just let it take you unawares? Is that better?
I'm not sure about that myself. I originally thought that it was, they just didn't want to know, denial, active denial. But then there was also, there's this counter wave of people out there that are under the impression that the universe operates at 40 or 50 frames a second, if you will, and that they can consciously help create that 40 and 50 second, or frames per second image of universe. And these are the conscious co-creation people that follow that paradigm. And so their theory is that, if we don't talk about it, then we don't give it energy, we don't bring it into existence. And the universe doesn't work that way in my experience. So I'm not particularly afraid to talk about it because I'm of the complete reality school. Yeah. I don't want to put a belief system out there imposing my projection on universe. I want it to reveal itself to me. It's ever so much more interesting that way. And if I happen to say that, the signs appear that there's going to be an earthquake, then this is a good projection or a predictive episode and exercise. And maybe we'll be right, maybe we'll learn something, or maybe we'll be wrong and learn even more.
Right, and that heavy thing above the bed is within our 50 frames.
Yeah, you can do something with that, yeah.
So what have you learned or found from the recent events since October 5th or so? That's when we were first told about your WebBot
We had a projection that showed that. Well, let me back up. Our data shows, as you will see in the report I sent you on one of the charts, that we've been in what we call building tension language from about February of 2008, and it continued all the way up to October 7th, and then the building tension language. And building tension language is that kind of words and emotional impact that have you clench your muscles, tighten your jaw, tighten your abdomen. You get tense. And we thought on October 7th that we saw something where the whole planet would start shifting over into release language. And sure enough, that occurred. It occurred mostly about the economics, although there is some military components and so on. Now, our data shows that the release language we're in now, the very kind of tones, everybody's saying our economy is collapsing and you can do this, and a lot of words ending in ing that put fear out there, will continue at least through February 19th and then gradually ease off into March. So the way we're in now, it's just going to get worse all the way up through February 19th. Now, this is a very extraordinary for us because we've never seen any release language period like this in our previous work going back to 2003, where we've been running it pretty much full time. So it is a unique period in history for us. And we're going to have much more economic thrashing around by the powers that be and all of their minions and everybody who believes that currency and money actually is worthwhile and is representative of how we should live. All these people that are monetarily attached are going to be in a great deal of strain, not only from where we're at now, but it'll get a lot worse beginning around the end of November, such that by, say, the 20th to the 24th of November, all the way through to about December 15th, it's going to be another big slide down with everybody just losing their minds over the economic component of it and their inability to do anything about it. And then we get to the point where the officialdom starts to monkey with things and they make everything worse, and we go into an even steeper slide all the way down through to about maybe the 22nd or 23rd of December. And then it flattens out a little bit emotionally until about the 26th of January. So if I'm correct, and if Biden is correct, and if Colin Powell is correct, and there's going to be, quote, a test of the new administration, my money would be for it to occur very late in the day on the 26th of January or very early in the morning on the 27th. So about 7 days after the inauguration.
Yeah.
That is amazingly precise timing.
Oh, but it could be wrong.
No, I know, it of course. But even to get there as a possibility or a probability.
Oh, a lot of work.
It's amazing.
Been doing it for a number of years, though, and so we've got the work down to more or less routine. But I kid you not, you're talking a lot of work behind this kind of stuff. Basically, I'm a hermit. I do this, and it's only been recently that I've been able to even anticipate going back into doing active martial arts or group meditation, because I'm finally getting the workload under control, and other things are easing up in my life a bit.
And you're telling us not to get too much in a tunnel.
I don't take my own advice. I just dish it out.
Right.
Well, that's all right. We're kind of in the same space as you. Just release all of this that's going on. Take some time.
Right.
To
Find your
just
center.
do
Not
that.
really important. It is important in the mundane 40 frames a second world, but it's not even overwhelming there. It's just a matter of coping, about being an adult about it.
Yes.
But this is going to be actually very, very severe, and I need not tell everybody that that you probably feel it in your gut that things are entirely different this time. It's not even going to be like the previous depression. This is going to be the Greater Depression. And at a fundamental core, I'm an aficionado of Buckminster Fuller and all of his works and his methodologies, and I apply a lot of them in my approach to things. And one of the things I've noted is that we're approaching a period of time that the dollar is going to die. We may not be using a dollar in the United States as we understand it this time next year. And somewhere in between, a horrific change is going to come across the planet. Because right now, a third of the global population, 2-some-odd billion people, live on $2 a day or less. These people are going to be plunged into the abject poverty of trying to subsist on pennies a day when the dollar dies. But the real tragedy to everything, of course, is that from our viewpoint, is that a lot of people in the Northern Hemisphere, another 2 billion people, are going to be plunged down to that $2 a day or less livelihood by the death of the dollar. And so the whole planet is going to shudder relative to this economic kind of stuff. And we need to be smart enough that we don't take the frustration and pain that we're going to suffer and decide that I'm going to relieve my pain by claiming that the Russians or the Iranians or, some towel-wearing or, feather-spouting kind of guy is the enemy, and I need to kill him in order to release my pain, because that's what the powers that be want you to do. What we need to do is to take our pain and eat that pain and say, it's part of me, I own this, and I control it, and I'm going to be my own sovereign master, and I'm going to turn around and say to the powers that be, up yours. Or basically, I'm going to say, welcome to my mat. Please demonstrate your art so that I can demonstrate mine.
That's going to go as a little nugget in the stream. That is perfect.
Yeah.
And
there's definitely been that feeling for some months now, especially during this long, horrible presidential campaign that's been dragging on forever, that, something unusual or very strange is going to be happening between now and when we have our new president.
Yeah, now, bear in mind that much of what you're feeling is actually manipulated. It is no accident that the presidential campaigns were run so early. No accident whatsoever. They did it to increase the tensions that are associated with that and get the emotions out there such that they can play with them. They're of the opinion, they're martial artists as well. We need not kid ourselves, and their arts are pretty good. And they operate on the theory that if they get your emotions all whipped up and moving, then it's that much easier for them to redirect them, and they don't have to get them all whipped up and aimed at a specific spot. If they're just all generally frothing, then they just kind of like direct the flow, and it's a lot easier to do. So they'll try and keep you off balance and emotionally unstable with all different kinds of ploys, including extra long, acrimonious kinds of political sort of stuff.
Yeah, and we've been observing, and this we're out of time now, but maybe next time we can talk about this, is that you can observe the layers of what is orchestrated, which at first looks like that's probably not what the powers that be that want, but then underneath it was intentional.
Well, they're masters
weeding between
deception.
What is it that bothers them, and what is it that they're actually creating? Maybe we can talk about that next time.
Sure.
Clif, this is fabulous. Thank you for joining us.
Sure, no problem at all. Glad to be here, guys.
And Susan, you're right. He's a genius.
No, I don't think so at all. I'm not doing anything that someone else won't supersede real quick.
Yeah, humbleness is part of it. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Clif.
Okay, we'll talk again later.
All
Bye.
right. Thanks for listening.